Okay, so we are already live now. I believe we can start a couple of minutes until people join us. Okay, let's wait about 5 minutes. Okay, I see that people are already starting to join us. Please, whoever is joining us, write your name and position in the comments so we can know each other. And let's wait 2 more minutes, please, and then we can start. Okay. Do you see me? Okay, let's start. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. So as you can see, today we have a very special episode because we have two speakers and our topic is very, very interesting. Our guests are Tatev Petrossian and Babakhanian. Tatev Jan, Alan Jan, thank you for accepting our invitation and doing this presentation. I would like you to tell about yourselves a little bit, and later on we can start with the presentation.
Sure, I can kick off. So hi everyone, I'm excited to have you all here for this 1 hour presentation or webinar. I'm Alan, and I call myself a technology consultant who is very passionate about solving business challenges while leveraging technology and data analytics. I had the opportunity to work on in multiple industries, including automotive, FMCG, professional services. Some of the few previous companies I worked for are Deloitte and Cognizant. And also I had the opportunity to work on multiple technology platforms. One of those, which I love the most, Salesforce, the cloud-based CRM, which I worked on delivering Salesforce for my enterprise level customers back in Australia. So at the moment, I'm the Director of Strategy Growth and Partnerships for a US / Armenian based technology company, which we are delivering technology solutions to governments and public sector. Two facts about myself is that I've got two daughters, 3 and 6 year olds, and also I relocated from Sydney, Australia 1.5 years ago to my motherland, Armenia.
Great. Well, I'll follow up on that. My name is Tatev Petrossian. I'm French Armenian. I'm an independent consultant at Revolve Consulting, which I founded about 3 years ago. And Revolve mostly focus on innovative business model, raising awareness towards those, and mostly also promoting this idea that business models have to go beyond sole profit maximization. So I tend to really focus on the profit plus purpose type of models. And I say I will kind of refer to myself as a strategy designer. And I guess that's pretty much it. I operate in also various sectors. I repatriated about 3.5 years ago. And very glad to have done so, and we'll keep staying here. So yeah, ready to kick that off. Should I maybe share the presentation? Should we start it off? Awesome.
Yes, yeah, let's start with the presentation. And then,
all right.
Sorry, Tatev, so let me remind our guests, our viewers, that they can write their comments. They can write their questions in the comments part, okay? Because at the end, we're going to have a Q&A session, like for about 10 minutes. Okay, so now let's start.
All right, so thank you all for being present to this little discussion that we're gonna lead with Alan. Before we dig in the core topic of today, I wanted to share this this meme, which I guess refer to a collective experience we've all shared. Who hasn't ever stumbled over a brick of Lego in the middle of your night on your peaceful way to the bathroom and then cried your mamas out? Well, pretty sure that tragedy has happened to many of us. It's a collective trauma for many. And mind you, if in 1949 the Danish manufacturer had used what we're about to unveil to you today, maybe we would have had today Legos made out of soft rubber and potentially even repelling magnetically our feet once we approach them. So while this meme is actually not to be taken too seriously, It actually illustrates something that is that happens in countless companies every day. In other words, we often have products that are created to work ideally on one specific group of customers. So naming here playing children in this case, while completely ignoring another type of user, which will be here parents, big sisters and brothers in agony, right? Now, this is typically where double diamond process, which we're gonna discuss it in a bit, comes in very handy. Now, what it is and how does that apply to business design, business model design? So as the name leads you to it, there's actually double diamond process, refer interchangeably. I mean, you can use design sprint or double diamond. It actually refers to exactly the same concept, which is ultimately an iterative process that uses human empathy to understand the user that is at the heart of the solutions we want to develop and sustain as companies. Now, if you ask me, I will just tell you that it's problem solving on steroids, and it allows really to generate at record speed diverse and creative set of ideas that can be prototyped, tested, and improved upon very quickly. The whole, I would say, lead action of double diamond process and design sprint is build quick to fail fast. So I would say like that's the core message behind any design sprint. Now, how is it structured? That's what we're gonna see now. You guessed it, we're talking here about two diamond shaped or close to diamond shaped areas. The first diamond is actually dedicated to gather intelligence on your user. That's really where you're gonna unveil user insights, pain points, and challenges that your user faces by mostly operating by asking, listening, and sorting all the data. So that's really like an empathy relationship build up. And the second diamond shape, diamond area is really dedicated to data processing and iterative design. So ultimately here you create, you design, you test, and you repeat it all over again. It's basically build it, break it, and fix it. And you repeat that as many times as you can. So overall, when in the first block, you focus on understanding your user and set the direction for designing the right thing, the right product, the right service. In the second block, you're gonna take the lead at designing it right and mostly creating a desired outcome via this sort of cyclical loop of trial and test runs. Now, I suggest we have a quick zoom in on each one of the phases because I will mostly discuss like the theoretical aspect of the processes, and then Alan will expand upon the more practical side of the concept. If we zoom in on phase one, so the first D, discover, is really about understanding your problem. So at this pool, you know, I guess the idea is to figure out what's the trigger. The trigger in any design sprint is usually a pain point or a challenge faced by the user. So for instance, it can be user reported usability issues, it can be a new product development, or it can be improving an existing service or product. So typically in that phase, you might want to find out why a given targeted user group will not use the product as you intended to, or eventually, and that happens also a lot, why a target group that wasn't directly addressed by your campaign or your strategy is actually showing a lot of interest. So it's typically the different sort of case that you might have. And as you will notice in the shape of the diagram, is a very divergent phase, meaning like you're gonna gather as much data and input as you can. Once you have gathered that information, now it's time to sort it. And that's where we entered phase two of the first diamond, which is now really identifying the core problem. Once you have already all those user insights, your role as a business designer or strategy designer is really to identify the patterns that you might see and create the hypothesis of your problem. For those of you who have already been encountered like or made design sprint, there's like this famous how might we exercise. That's typically what we will do at that point in time. And you will come to realize often during that phase that the problem that you initially started with is not actually the most relevant, or you might also realize that there's plenty more problem that you had initially planned. And eventually you will uncover here more like higher potential to improve your customer experience, I will say. So at that point in time, when you pass the first diamond, you have already a clear idea of what you want to design, and you kind of set the direction of where you're going already. So that's where you have basically, I call it the true north here, but it's really this idea of your direction point forward. Now we entering the second phase, the third phase, actually, I should say, second diamond, which is developing possible solution. And that one is particularly my favorite, because that's really where you unleash the creative beast in you. You channel the inner child. And at first, I would say in this phase, the idea is really to focus on quantity rather than quality. You're going to do at this pool of the design sprint a lot of brainstorm, ideation session, guerrilla prototypes, which are, we refer to guerrilla for anything that is like low fidelity mockups, for instance. And what I will say for that phase is not to narrow down your solution too quickly and allow yourself to think outside the box. Now, what does it mean per se? We hear that terms a lot. I'll say that in the case of this exercise of a design sprint is really to be careful not to judge too soon, and also not to reject or accept any idea too quickly. So it's a right balance, and finding your rhythm with your team and the senior management and all the stakeholders involved in the sprint to be careful to really gather all the, maximum ideas that or generate as many solutions as you can. So I would say ultimately the advice to this phase is really cutting the it has always been done this way, or even worse, it was never possible. So those two type of attitudes are really to be killed during that phase. And finally, so we're reaching the end of this beautiful diagram, which is yet the final convergent phase. And it's about selecting and delivering your desired or most optimal solution. And here, based on all the ideas and solutions that you have generated at phase 3, all the rapid user tests that you have done, you basically start to correlate them with a list of criteria for decision that you pre-agree with usually the senior management and the team. And it's basically out of the bank of solutions that you have and the criteria that you list as being primordial to entering the market. It's like go solution or no go solution based on those criteria. So once you narrow it down to one or two solutions, that's really when you start to develop more advanced prototype, high fidelity prototypes and mockups, etc. So overall, this was the double diamond process, design sprint as well. And as you will conclude, I'm pretty sure with me, it's pretty awesome. And if you haven't done any, I really highly recommend you to start quick because it's a very fun and interactive experience. Now, why is this process really important in the case of leading and driving your business? Well, mostly because it actually ensures a higher probability for your startup to sustain over time and have a long-term sort of development. Yeah. If we look at this slide and the diagram that we have here, which is like a survey pursued like in 2018 over 101 startups that failed, you will see that actually the biggest reason why startups fail is no market need. At a pretty important percentage, 42% of startups fail because there's no market need for the product that they have created. Typically, this is the core challenges tackled by a design sprint, and that's one of the main reasons. That's one of the biggest leverage of a design sprint. If we look at some of the others, I would like to also bring your attention to number 7 here. So the lack of business model, which is a very crucial one, as you would guess. And typically design sprint also help to understand throughout all those phases, really what is a business model and how to think of one for your product or service. So speaking of business model, I guess that's an easy transition to the second part of what I wanted to talk to you about, which is basically how this double diamond process applies to business model design. But before we actually dive into how, I think it's important to also highlight what is really a business model. Now, very often when I exchange with the startup ecosystem here or in different countries where I operate or with students, I realize that there is a big amalgam that is made between business model and revenue model. Now, the two are very different. When you're asked what's your business model, it's actually very different from how you generate revenue, how you generate cash for your company. Revenue model is embedded into business model, but the business model is much bigger than that. And by definition is, I would say it's the approach of your company to create, deliver, and capture value. I bolded the three verbs, but actually the key word here is not creating, delivering, and capturing, it's actually value. Business model is really all about value, and that means above your financial value, it can be your human capital value, your resource value, your intellectual property, your partnership, etc., etc. So the idea is really to broaden up the scope of your mind when you create your startup or your business, and think of that design process in a much bigger way than just generating cash. So when do you reach basically the sweet spot of innovation in the process of designing a business model? Is typically when you have a product that is desired by your users. That makes sense. But it's simultaneously also a product that has to be viable, economically speaking, and finally, technically feasible. So when you have all those 3 points meeting, the meeting point of all those is where you've hit sustainability of your company, and innovation is actually reached, right? You have secured your spot on the market. Now, where do we start in this process? When you want to design a business model, what's your first stop? Always start with the user. Now, you will guess design sprint is a very human-centered topic. So obviously, for this talk, I will focus mostly on that part, desirability part. And if you look at this process, you will realize that it's actually pretty close to what we've seen prior when we look at the double diamond diagram. If we go to each phase very quickly and how the activities are deployed upon each, you realize, so the discovery phase is very close to what we saw previously. So it's like gathering insight, user insights onto the problem. And here, typically, we're gonna try to address the size of the market. So by size of the market, I mean, on top of the addressable market for your sector, it's also understanding what's the market that you can obtain through your product, etc. So for that, typically, we're gonna do a very structured exercise like the customer journey map, or we're gonna do storyboard to really dig into the experience lived by the user. The second pull is actually, once you have already the insight, we navigate into validating those customer pains that we have highlighted, and that goes towards much more quantitative exercise. Typically here, we're gonna size in dollar value or in any currency value the problem you're tackling. So typically you have ballpark figures exercise here that go through we do a segmentation of the customer, we have different blocks, and then we make a product of how many times, the frequency of how many times those customers interact with the problem that you have highlighted, and what's the severity of it, meaning how much money your users are ready to pay or for every time they interact with that problem. So it's a very sort of, I would say, fun and quick way to have an idea of what's the number value of the problem you're tackling. Then we generate the potential solution, we test the different business models, we evaluate the economic viability of each, and finally, we launch the validated solution onto the market. Now, you will realize that almost all the verbs and sentences that I've used for this business model design are very similar to what we discussed previously when we approached the double diamond. So there's a clear overlap between the two approaches. And when you do design, you actually do a lot of back and forth. It's not a linear structure. It's very much cyclical. So you're always going to play with a lot of flexibility, you know, back and forth, and like ensuring that shuttle always, so that you maximize your bank of data and you minimize basically your margin of error, so that when you penetrate the market, you have the highest chance of having a product market perfect fit. To wrap up kind of this section about, you know, the theoretical aspect of those processes and how they apply to the business world, I wanted to leave you with 3 key takeaways on how do you navigate actually all those uncertainties when and assumptions when you start a business or when you want to grow your business. Well, first is step out of your comfort zone. Now, I had a professor that used to tell me all the time that arrogance is the opposite of curiosity. So that's a sentence, that's something that got fixed in my mind. So I would say that really to make good decision, and more specifically in a design sprint, which is, you'll see when Alan will present it, it's a very short and condensed format. So to make good decision in such a high intensity period, you really need to be someone willing to look at things that are difficult. So if you stumble on a piece of information that makes you uncomfortable, you need to pursue that doubt, right? And that uncertainty right in the middle. And I know the purpose of this talk is actually to lead you on ways to mitigate uncertainties. But when you do design sprint, actually, you realize that the best way to mitigate them is actually to, you know, yield from them and to actually shoot right in the middle of those uncertainty. So get comfortable being uncomfortable, I would say, for the tacky formulation. Number 2 is actually know your customer. We've all been through KYC processes, I'm pretty sure, in many of the companies we've worked in. But here the idea is really to kill the, I know this is the right way, I know it all, and business as usual sort of mentality. And that really, oops, sorry. So a lot of us probably, you know, in marketing classes or in business classes 101, we've always heard this thing that, you know, you need to give the customer what they want. Well, typically in a design approach, we don't function this way. Our job is really to figure out what the customer wants until we have shown it to them. So that's like, you see, it's a slightly different approach. And to highlight that, there's that famous quote from Henry Ford, so the car manufacturer, and he said basically that if I were to ask my customer what they wanted, they will have told me faster horses, you know, to just accelerate their, you know, transport from point E to point B. So what does that highlight, I think, is that a customer can easily describe a problem that they're going through, they're experiencing, but they're not the best at finding the most optimal solution. And that's where, you know, design approach comes in. So I would say on that second key takeaway, read things that are not yet on the page. That's basically what it is, like constantly anticipating and trying to read through the lines, right? And finally, I wanted to wrap up my little speech on this idea of minimum lovable product, as we focused really here on the user desirability aspect of things. If you're uncertain about how to operationalize your concept, well, the magic mantra I would say here is really build a low-cost prototype and try to get feedback as fast as you can, as many times as you can, and well, as many times as you can, basically. So, because the idea is that if you iterate on your beta customer base, you will really start to figure out what are the missing links to make it like a very smooth experience. And that's really when the time kicks in to design your minimum lovable product that meets all those requirements. So I hope this kind of gave like a short introduction of what things are on the books, at least on paper. And I leave now the stage to my colleague, Alan, who will kind of guide you more through how does that apply in your everyday life at practical level. Alan Jan, floor is yours.
Sure, thank you. Tatev, I think you said build fast and fail faster. Is it what you said? Yeah. So I have another variation of it. Prototype fast and learn faster.
I think we can put the two in parallel indeed.
Yeah, we can. All right. Thank you, Tatev. So basically, Tatev talked about the principles of design, this double diamond, which is very famous. And she talked about the application of design on macro and strategic level, business model, etc. Here, I'm going to talk about the application of design on tactical level, right? And specifically, I'm going to talk about a methodology called design spree, which is my favorite. All right. Well, as the subject and the topic suggests, this is all about, talking about methods to mitigate uncertainties. Well, I will start to say that I believe no one can argue that we are surrounded by uncertainties and unknowns in our day-to-day lives, right? Both in our personal and professional lives. These uncertainties ranges from very petty and unimportant things to life-changing matters. On personal matters, for example, which brand of yogurt is best to buy, right? Which university should I apply for, or whether I should get married or stay single, if you are not married, of course. In business context, which market should we get into? Do we need to make enhancements on our existing products or services? Or what are those enhancements? Do we need to introduce a new product or service? And what are those new products and services, of course? So these are the very crucial questions, right? And you want to explore. And there are tons of unknowns behind those questions. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, right? If we put aside the complexity of that challenge or the question that we want to explore and we want to solve, I think most of the times the way we are dealing with personal matters and challenges and questions, it's more efficient than doing it in business context, right? Let me just give you an example by making an analogy between a personal matter and a challenge in a business context. So, I love this cartoon. Just look at that female giraffe's face. It's so funny. Okay. What is happening, Lala? Okay, cool. All right. Those two giraffes are stuck on Noah's Ark, but but the story that I'm going to talk about is like very much relevant to this slide. So let's imagine a single adult whose name is Jack, right? And Jack, let's assume that he's a professional UX designer and he's willing to date and he might get married and has a family if he finds the right match, right? Jack might start with what most people do, right? He might have a very clear or maybe very vague views about the characteristics of the ideal partner or date. From education perspective to work to physical look to wealth, etc. Right? But what he does first is to start dating, right? Either by attending different events, gatherings, mingling with people, subscribing to different dating apps, and he might eventually land on his first date. Which is close to the characteristic he has in mind. He might even refine those characteristics while dating. For example, he might say, I would like to just date with a very well-educated lady who's got a PhD. And then after dating with a first or second PhD holder, he realizes, oh my God, these guys, nah, these are not my type of people. So he's starting to just refine those requirements. Right, so let's say they're just like dating once, twice, and then for the third one is they're deciding to living together. And after living together, he's realizing that his date has very weird habits. And then just like breaking up with that one, he goes back to the dating cycle. And then finally, he might eventually land on that person who is the one to get married, right? But in this story, what is happening here is that, which is important, is those iterations of testing out in the real world and refining those characteristics that Jack had in his mind. Now imagine the same Jack. This is a parallel universe, right? You have just imagine the same Jack. He's willing to date. He's the same professional UX designer, and he wants to get married eventually. He started putting a list of desired characteristics of that ideal date, right? And he spends months and on fine-tuning that list before going out and actually start dating. Some of the requirements you might have, I'm exaggerating, but maybe in the parallel world, there might be a Jack with these requirements. He's looking for a PhD holder in physics who is working for NASA. Her height is 175 and has six-pack abs and very good looking, okay? Plus, her personal wealth is $750,000. Can you see that how specific Jack is? I love it. While 70% of $750,000 are invested in high growth stocks and 30% are liquid assets. I guess you don't need to tell you that Jack will most probably will fail in his dating journey. If that individual exists in the real world, she may not want to date with Jack, right? So, well, now let's get back to our business context. I have seen startups to large corporations where they are spending months and sometimes even years, right, to work on an idea without testing it out in the real world. Even I know cases where organizations are saying that, of course, we are going to test it before launching our product, but we are going to build it first before testing it. And this reminds me of an anecdote. There were two friends, they were sitting in a restaurant, and one of the friends is telling the other one, says, hey, can you have 10 loaves of bread in one go? And the guy says, just give me 5 minutes, I will get back to you with that. I'll just goes out, and after 5 minutes, he comes back and says, yes, of course I can. And he eats that 10 loaves of bread. Says, oh, interesting. And how about having 50 loaves of bread now? And he said, all right, can you just give me 10 minutes? I'll come back. And then after 10 minutes, he comes back again and just eats 50 loaves of bread. He said, hey, mate, I'm just out of curiosity. What were you doing during that time? We were going out. So I was going and testing out to just eat. Can I eat those 10 or 50 loaves of bread and coming back and testing it and just like eating them? So in reality, he basically ended up having 120 loaves of bread. So this is exactly what is happening sometimes in startups ecosystem as well. So we are building it to just test it. So this is where I'm saying that there are some efficient ways, and sure, they are failing to validate the idea in an efficient manner, which would translate to wasting their precious resources and time on something that they couldn't have killed it in the first place, or make a dramatic change in the developing that basically product. So even the research that Dr. showed, the culprit for failure for most of the startups is that there was no marketing. 40% of them were just like, and that was the main contributor. So I've seen organizations, specifically in the ecosystem, in the startup ecosystem here in Armenia, I've seen that they're already building a product and then they're trying to find a problem, right? They have the problem. It says that we built this product, now let's just find that problem to solve. Or they have a solution, there is a problem, but that problem, it's so petty, it's so unimportant. And I would sometimes I'm just sitting in those, pitching sessions and saying that, who on earth is going to pay for that product? Yes, that problem exists, but who is going to pay for it, right? So now here, let me just introduce you to that methodology, which is called design sprint. Tatev, blink, blink. Oh yeah, here it is. So blink or wink is that signal that I'm supposed to give to Tatev to just change the slides, but I can't wink. I'm just like blinking, but both of them won't work, I guess. So this is that methodology I was talking about, design sprint, and I've got the book here too. So this is a book. I've been introduced to this back in 2016. It has been released in March 2016, but I've been introduced later, maybe mid-2016-ish. 2016 -ish. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. This is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And to be honest, I was just like, oh, this is so cool I was facing a challenge, and I read this book on my weekend, just like 2 or 3 days. I had to finish it because I had to apply it on the project I was working on. So back in 2016, myself and my team were supposed to deliver a large project for an industry where we had no clue about it, and the customer had no idea that what they need. So I felt that if we go with the traditional way of doing the discovery, I was feeling that we are planning for failure. So that's why I adopted this approach by force. Okay, but then I fell in love with it. So let me just give you a very quick story. I love stories. I'm pretty sure you love stories too. The story behind this thing, Design Spring, it's been written by Jake Knapp. I'm pretty sure you guys have used Jake Knapp's product. So he's a product designer from Google. He designed Gmail, Hangouts, many other products, right? So he's a very cool dude. So Jake Knapp was working at Google back in 2016, 2015. And then he's been called out by GV, as you can see the icon there, or Google Ventures. So Google Ventures is the investment arm of Google. What they do is that they're investing their billions of dollars that they have to different, startups and companies. You might say that, oh, because it's Google, all of them are in technology. The answer is no. Some of them are just like coffee shops, like that one below Uber. The Uber's icon, as you can see, blue bottle, is a coffee shop. It's a US-based coffee shop. So they're investing in different organizations. I'm pretty sure you know some of these logos here: Slack, Uber. What are they here? Some of them are just like, I know, GitHub, Cloudera, DocuSign, etc. So Google Ventures is just like investing in different companies, like Dana, what it does. So, and then what happened was that Google Ventures just realized that when these companies in their portfolio are going through these product development or product enhancements, they're going months and months and months and months, and then the ROI eventually is dropping, or return on investment on the portfolio is dropping. Then this is where they gave a mission to Jake Knapp and some of other his team members to go and solve this problem. And what they did was that Jake Knapp just went through these companies who wanted to enhance their product, or they wanted to basically develop a new product, and they ran workshops. I guess, if I was taking more than 150 workshops to come up with that formula, which has been called Design Sprint, right? So here it is. It's not a rocket science, but believe it, guys, there are some very small stuff in it which can contribute to really big successes in your projects. So it just basically, they came up with this process, which is they think that, hey, in 1 week, we can go through from ideation to prototyping and testing it, and see that whether that idea is a viable idea or not, right? And then if it works, then we can just have another design sprint after that, or we will kill the whole idea after a week, right? So they did it with many companies, including pharmaceutical companies and robot designing companies, software companies, that coffee shop companies, so whatever. It's not only related to the technology stuff, right? So what is happening is that if you read this book, by the way, I'm not getting any commission of selling this book for information. If you go through this book, it has in detail it explaining that, okay, what are you supposed to do on Monday, Tuesday, and even they have, I love it. Jake Knapp even giving some suggestions on the snack that you can have during those workshops. It's so funny. Anyway, what is happening is on Monday, basically, you need to just understand what the challenge that you want to solve. And you are basically putting together a map or a journey map of your customers, of your business processes, or the challenge that you want to solve. And this is where you're prioritizing. This is, okay, what is that problem? Or as Tatev mentioned, they're starting with how might be questions. I'm not going through the details of it because here I want to just give you a brief overview about what that is, right? So you can go and explore it later. On Tuesday, I love this. There is a section called lightning demos. This is where you are basically, the team members are presenting different solutions. And also this is where the team members are working together to sketch. When I'm saying working together, actually there's there's a term, it's used a lot in the book, and I'm using a lot too, working alone together. So it means that they are sitting together, but each of them just sketching their solution, and then they're together, they're voting and refining those solutions, right? Wednesday is about, after all the solution has been presented, they're deciding on the solutions and they're refining it. And Thursday is a prototyping day. This is where they're putting the prototypes. If it's a hardware, they're using a 3D printer. If it's just like a software, they're going with tools like Figma, Sketch, etc. to just put that prototype together. And Friday and the Thursday, they are recruiting the testers, and by Friday, they're testing the idea. And they're getting the feedback from the testers. And this is where they see that whether they need to kill it, or they need to just change the direction of the product or that service, or they need to run another design sprint to further refine it. Blink, blink, or wink. So this is the list of some of the companies that adopted design sprint. As you can see, there are really big brands here like Slack, Google, Netflix, Salesforce, the company that I work for. And one of the logos here, just like I put it here, is Lego, which Tatev started her presentation from there. As of last year, before COVID, I was listening to a podcast, and Lego's headquarters in Copenhagen in Denmark, they had 26 design sprint teams that were working in parallel. And even Lego just introduced a new concept called Control Tower, like in an airport. And Control Tower just like acting as a PMO, and we're basically seeing what those design sprint teams are doing in parallel, and sees that where they can make synergies, where the ideas going and progressing, etc. So companies are truly adopting this because they can see that, you know, the opportunity cost associated to those waterfall type of, you know, approaches where they're spending months and months and months on, nurturing an idea. It doesn't work, you know, and this is where it's a fastest way to prototype fast and learn faster. Okay, blink, wink. Next slide-ish. All right, so here there's a company called AJ and Smart. By the way, through promoting the company, I'm not getting any commission again, but these guys, they have fantastic resources. And the founder of the AJ and Smart, Jonathan Courtney, that guy on the top row, the left from top, yep. That guy is the CEO of AJ and Smart. They're based in Berlin, and most of them just like they're Australian dudes and gals. So they got together and they were working, and Jake Knapp, the author of that book, is a partner. They're working together. They have a masterclass where you can learn more about it, and even they changed the design sprint slightly, and they have they had a product breakfast or product design breakfast, something like that podcast, which is fabulous, and their YouTube channel and the Facebook page. There are tons of really good content there. Anyway, just this is for information to just go and explore more besides reading that book. And I guess finito. Am I right? Yes. Arigato gozaimasu.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you very much for this amazing presentation. It was a little bit long, but very useful and very informative. I myself learned a lot of new things.
Glad to hear that.
Okay, so we have a few questions which were submitted before the event. Now I'll read those questions and please just answer, okay? So the first question, have you ever had to throw away a design you were really excited about because the product changed? And how did you feel about that?
Yeah. I can just go if you're okay. So I have this is not mine. I don't know who said it first, but there's a statement that says that kill the puppy. Because puppies are very cute, obviously you don't want to kill them, right? Basically it says that, you know, some ideas, they have an emotional attachment like a puppy, if you have, and basically they're saying that if that idea or the design here, you know, you have that emotional attachment, but if you if you look at it from different angles to see that whether that idea works or not, or if it's viable or not, you need to have that courage to just basically kill it and stop it as soon as possible. And this happened to me many times. And to be honest, sometimes I was feeling that, oh my God, that solution, it was fantastic. I know that would be the best solution. But sometimes I've been forced by my customers to say that, then they say that kill it, and I had to kill it. So yes, but you know, you need to be pragmatic and realistic when it comes to solution design. You know.
Okay, Tatev, do you have any additional?
No, I think it's very, I mean, Alan said it all. It's really this idea not to fall in love with your product really too quickly. It's like, you know, when I was mentioning it, don't get too much attached to your own ideas. Try to, but it also goes with the law of practice, right? The more you practice those exercises, it's like a muscle. The more you get that distance towards your own ideas, your own solutions. So the more you'll do it, the more you'll realize it's actually just, you know, interchangeable ideas, and you focus on really reaching that desired outcome that is best for the user, because your entire focus is on maximizing that user experience. So then you get that distance as you practice it, really.
Great.
Yeah, Dr. Chen, by the way, you can stop sharing the presentation so that
Oh, all right.
3 of us. Okay, so let me read the next question. How to work with the engineers during the design development process?
How to work? Well, basically, during the design, and specifically if you're going to apply design sprint, definitely you need to have engineers by your side for that. You know, maybe not for the whole week, but at least for the at the key stage. Specifically when you are prototyping, when you are sketching the solutions, you need to have them by your side, and even they need to contribute to the design as well, because engineers, they have a very different perspective than a UX designer. And also for engineers, definitely you need to have them in the room with yourself to have them to do the technical assessment, so that whether that solution they're designing is a viable option from technical perspective, and they can basically make changes on your design as well based on the view that you're sharing. But obviously it goes back to the roles and responsibilities also during those workshops and the design process.
Thank you. Very excellent. Have you ever had to redo your design because it would take too long to build?
You want to go, Alan?
Yeah, sure. You go ahead.
Well, you know, just like very briefly, I'll say that I usually intervene on idea stage. So I focus mostly on strategy design. So it's really conceptualization stage. And usually throughout the design sprints that I lead, the prototyping is really focused on guerrilla prototyping. So it happens in one day. It's usually below $100, you know, budget. So we build it up from whatever we have at hand. So in the frame of exercise that I've done, I haven't really been through that challenge, because usually I focus mostly on low fidelity, like those guerrilla prototype, which are, you know, the first stage. So I cannot really relate to it, but the exercise wants that, yeah, you just like drop. If it takes too long, then it means like you're not optimizing the exercise as it's supposed to. But I'll leave Alan to share more experience insight on that phase.
Yeah, what I would say is that basically, yes, I've done it. I've done it many times, and but at the end of the day, for every solution, it's a trade-off between the cost and the value that you want to deliver to your customers through your product or service that you're designing, right? And you always need to be aware of that. So sometimes you are, as one of my customers told me, just Alan, you are going for a gold-plated solution. That's not what we want. And you know, and it's a customer, so, and we had to just work. Or even the product team, they're just like, when you see gold-plated, so sometimes, you know, you are creating tons of technical work, and and technical work is associated to cost. And also in the same time, you need to just look at, okay, with that gold-plated solution that you're thinking to just do and you want to just develop, how much value you can generate. So you need to just come up with a trade-off. And also in the same time, back to the same, the first question that says you need to detach yourself from that solution, and you need to look at it from just as an outsider. So that what is that solution? What is the value that is generated? What is the cost associated to that? And then either redo it or completely just change the direction or refine it.
Okay, and we have the final question. Tell me about the conflict you had with an engineer based on something you designed. How did you resolve it?
Yeah, it was, I guess it was back in 2017 or 18. So me and my team members, because I was just leading the consulting practice, so we came up with a solution for a customer, and then we engaged the architect, or the technical architect, says, hey, this is what customer wants. This is the solution we designed. What do you think? And the guy just looked at us and said, rubbish. Something to dualize. He didn't say rubbish, but it says, yeah. But when the engineers say, yeah, it means that, hey, they don't like it. So we work together. So we as consultants, we try to just understand what are the technical challenges. Obviously, one of the consultants, these guys, including myself, they're not completely disconnected from the technical world, so we know what are the challenges we might have. But when the guy just started to explain to us, we saw if you go and propose that solution to the customer, or if you just take the product direction to that way, we might have some challenges down the track. So again, just like back to the same point that I mentioned, just like it's a trade-off. Then you need to see that, okay, what you're trying to basically deliver to your customers from the value perspective, and what are the costs and challenges associated to it, and you need to basically weight them and then just make the decision. But those, it's not. I'm not saying it's a conflict, and this is where I would say just working as a team and to find the best way. That will be my perspective towards that teamwork.
Okay, thank you. And I believe these are all the questions we had. And in the comment section, we don't really have any questions. Is there anything else you would like to add, Tatev-jan, Ellen-jan?
Just thank you for the opportunity of sharing your platform, to spread the message and raising awareness on those innovative methodologies that are, the future of what consulting and problem solving will be probably in the next decade or so. So thank you to Bana for the opportunity to share the message.
Yeah, I will echo what Tatev said, all I say is that to the people who are still online, I don't know how many people are going to watch it later. I'm more than happy for you to just reach out to me through LinkedIn. I guess that Tatev, yeah.
I'll echo on that too. Yeah.
Through LinkedIn, more than happy to just have a catch up over a cup of coffee or something, or maybe breakfast or lunch, whatever, and discuss about the challenge you have, or if you want to learn more, definitely. I don't call myself just like expert in the design sprint, but I have some knowledge and experience which I can just share with you and help you in your professional journey.
Great. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
I believe more people will watch this video later on, because we are uploading the video in our YouTube page. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.